Welcome to the Dangerous Man Podcast, where we talk about how to become a better man, take responsibility for our mission, create value for others, and the many failures and lessons we've learned along the way. Stay dangerous. Welcome back, everybody, to the Dangerous Man Podcast. This is your host, John Kostohris, joined by co-host
Adam Thooft. What's up, guys?
You're listening to the Dangerous Man Podcast. We're super pumped to be here. I am in a great mood because I'm just so pumped about this topic. And, basically, this is where in my notes it says, insert a concise story of how the topic became introduced. So I'm going to do just that. Yesterday.
That's quite the segue.
I'm just going to segue by reading you my segue. No, it's fun. It's fun. Yesterday, Adam, we don't always do that, by the way. It's just, did I feel that? Yesterday, I was on the phone with a couple people, and I started a health and wellness business probably a couple months here now. And for context on this topic, I sell all kinds of different, supplements, health, like sports, nutrition, fitness, vitamins, you name it. Mm-hmm. And I am I have an opportunity in this health business that I'm starting to be able to bring other people to essentially hey, have you ever thought about being a business owner? And come and join my team and start a business and be able to have essentially take the products that we use and similar to Vivint, where you are, doing door-to-door sales, you're a sales rep, you have the ability to kind of be a contractor and to make some money and revenue, some commission, if you will, on these products, and to be able to build reoccurring customers. And so it's obviously just like Vivint, super awesome opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And so I love just different people in my life that I'll either meet or just friends and family. I just, if an opportunity provides itself, to be hey, would you ever consider quitting your 9-to-5 job? Not today, but in the future, and being an entrepreneur. And I don't go up to everybody because that'd be kind of weird.
Hey, you want to be an entrepreneur?
But there's just certain people you'll meet, and this is similar to what you do, Adam, where you're wow, sounds like you don't really know what you want to do, or you have certain goals in your life. And this would be a great catalyst to accomplishing your goals and doing some awesome stuff. Whether it's they just naturally are creative and they're unhappy with their job and they want to be free of a boss, and they want to be able to take liberty on kind of be their own boss and set their own pace and, being a business owner. Maybe they want to be a leader and not just for another company, but for their own company. And so that's kind of the context here of what I do. And I'm on the phone, getting back to the phone, with some friends of mine that, I was wow, I think they might really benefit from this opportunity. They might really want to be a business owner, be an entrepreneur. I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna have a conversation. I'm just gonna ask them and see what they want to do with their life and if they'd be interested in something like this. And so I'm talking to them, and I essentially start the conversation about it. I'm hey, would you ever want to be an entrepreneur? And all the questions I just put out. And here's where the topic comes in. I want to talk about limiting beliefs. And this is how I kind of encountered me wanting to talk about this. Going back into the story, they just start coming out with these little excuses. And as I ask them, want to be a business owner, they just start, as what we call in the sales world, throwing out these smoke screens. Well, why don't you kind of just tell us what smoke screens are, Adam, before I go on?
Yeah. So I'll relate it in the sales, how I understand it in the sales environment. And that is when you are presenting a product or presenting some kind of offer, people will throw out what's called a smoke screen, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's not really
And
anything
smells like.
anything solid. It's just smoke. It's not really anything that actually matters. It's just something that people throw out. I don't know.
I mean, that's basically how I see it.
Yeah. To either to kind of shut you down a little bit because they're either not super interested, or they are maybe a little insecure about like issues that they might be having and don't want to actually like tell you the real reason why they don't want the thing, or because like if it's a money issue, like a lot of people are sensitive about like how much money they have. So like if they think it's too expensive for them, they're not going to be like, it's out of my price range. They're going to be like, I'm probably going to need to think about that. Where really what they need
and that's a smoke screen. I need to think about that.
Yeah. And it's like, well, the thing is like when you say you need to think about it, it's like there's really, you just need more information on like, okay, like if it is too expensive, like this isn't in my budget, can you make it in my budget? Or can I like somehow rework my budget to afford this? Is this worth going a little bit out of my budget to get? It's like, there's a lot of questions that you can get that are from that, but it's usually like, there's a bunch of questions that arise all at the same time. And it might be hard for someone to like articulate that. So they just throw out this like smoke screen excuse because they're like, oh, let me throw out the smoke screen and like retreat, kind of like a squid does in the water, like shoots its ink.
Yeah.
And the thing is a lot of the time it's being able to almost just kind of when you're in sales, kind of blow those away and just be like, oh yeah, for sure. There's a thing that's called like acknowledge, like ignore, respond, air, because that's what smoke screens are. It's like you acknowledge the smoke screen and then you just kind of ignore it basically. And then you just kind of respond to what probably the actual thing is and just keep moving. That's usually how people deal with smoke screens. But generally, if you want to think about it in a simpler way, it's like, hey, it's just kind of an excuse to not have to go deeper into what your actual like problem with an offer or a product or a deal may be.
Yeah, that's wonderful synthesis, Adam. Thank you. Thanks for explaining that. And that's essentially it. Like, it is an excuse. There's a deeper root issue, excuse, cause, whatever it is. And the smoke screen is not the deep actual thing. It's just the first kind of buffer zone.
It's
kind
smoke.
It's smoke to kind of just, it's just a dumb excuse. It doesn't mean anything. And so it's really important that we understand that what a smoke screen is, because that's what I was getting. And you will get a lot of this when you do any type of sales or you pitch any type of offer or even something that's an opportunity to someone. And so this is what I'm getting from my friends on the phone. And here's what's interesting is hearing these smoke screens come out. It was things like, and it was like, I think this is an offer so good for these particular friends I was talking to that it would be stupid for them to say no. Like Adam, like I know these people, they're friends of mine. And I was like, yeah, like you want to do full-time ministry? You could work in this, you could build a business and then have money coming in consistently and be able to take a step back just based on how this business model works that I do. And you could do full-time ministry and never have to work another hour of another job the rest of your life and be able to go and follow what you feel like God's calling you to do. And like, I'm expressing it like this because I'm passionate about this. They're calling their life to do mission work. And I'm passionate about them not having to like do all this fundraising and to be worried about finances the rest of their life. Like if anybody thinks that I'm a little bit hot, like, hot-headed sometimes, it's just because I'm passionate. Like, I'm not pushy, I'm passionate about being an entrepreneur and really what it can be for you and what it can allow you to do, free up your time and energy to go and do bigger and better things. And this is important to understand because I'm really pitching out of this part of my heart to these people. And the types of smoke screens I was getting was like, it kind of gets into the topic of limiting beliefs where some of it's just like, oh, I don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. But they're telling me some of the reasons that they don't like sales. They're not just saying like, no, I don't want to do that. Thanks for that great opportunity. Like, they're not that polite. They're like, oh, like, I have people that have talked to me about products and they just like scheduled a time to hang out and then they just were telling me about products. And I would never want to do that to other people. And I kind of say it in that tone because that's what it felt like to me, because they were just so.
It sounds really sassy.
Like, they were getting emotional. They were getting insecure and whiny and sassy. And I'm holding my composure. And of course, I know that's a bullshit reason.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I agree. Number one rule of sales, always, always, always agree. I agree. If you, as a business owner, were only getting together with friends to sell them products, that would be incredibly like sleazy. And probably you wouldn't feel very authentic as a person yourself. I literally said this to them because I'm not going to say you're right. Salespeople are sleazy because they obviously have a limiting belief on what this even is. And also, like, you don't have to sell that way. Being a business owner doesn't mean that you become this thing in your mind that is bad. There are so many ethical ways to do this. And I'm trying to express this to them because, like, it basically cuts straight through their smoke screen. And it's like, oh, the reason you just gave a terrible reason. You can actually do this really well. This is a great opportunity for you. And then another smoke screen, layer number 2. I have this great skill set and I work a job and I feel like I could just go work a job and get the money. I wouldn't have to they literally were like articulating, I don't have to put myself low and do sales and ask people for money. I'm like, this is literally what you're going to be doing as a missionary, asking people for money. Yeah. It's no different. This difference is support my business, support me, support my dreams, support my life. Like, this product also will serve and help you. So this is kind of where I'm coming from in this story. This is what I'm really diving into. And I'll kind of wrap it up by saying this of like, these limiting beliefs, these smoke screens, it just didn't compute. I was like, this just doesn't make sense.
Recomputing.
And the last thing, like, I'll say on that is my second friend I was talking to in a different call was essentially like, when I was kind of just like describing, like, look, I can work really hard and basically build up a customer base in 1 year, and I'll never have to work another hour of another job the rest of my life. And I could just hear over the phone them getting like emotional and like uncomfortable and insecure. And like, I could hear in the tone of their voice and the pause, like, and I knew I hit some kind of rock inside of them. Like a shovel, you're digging, you just clunk. Like, they couldn't wrap their mind around the fact that I could work for 1 year building up my sales, building up my customer base, and make 60, 70K a year. And that would only continue to go up the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. They could not even imagine. Their mindset was just it was way smaller than that. And I'm sure they ran into all kinds of limiting beliefs. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, okay, what causes them to have those limiting beliefs, right? Because when it comes to the limiting beliefs, it's almost if like they're putting you in a box that they've labeled, and they have like certain other labels that go with that box. And it's like, oh, well, I've labeled it that way and I understand it that way. So in order for them to almost like not have that limiting belief, they actually have to like tear apart that box and like remake it. And that kind of takes some work and like experiencing stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's just kind of like, okay, do they have to actually like change how they think about this certain box? Like, say the box of salesmen. Okay. there's a lot of people that think salesmen are kind of sleazy. And it's like, yes, there are some sleazy salesmen, but salesmen that are sleazy will not be salesmen for very long. Because yeah, maybe you can get a deal from being sleazy, but you can't get a career because no one will give you referrals. And
yes,
yeah,
exactly. Continue.
Yeah,
this is great.
But anyway, kind of like for me and John, we had limiting beliefs at a certain time, and it actually had to take like kind of a peeling back of that, because first off, we had to kind of be put in a position where we were kind of unsatisfied with our lives anyway. And then going out and buying graphics cards during like for crypto mining in the height of crypto with Danny Jingdahl, which we've had on the podcast.
Yeah.
To kind of start that, to like kind of ignite that mind shift for us.
Exactly.
And I didn't even have it fully until I went out for Vivint and worked really hard there. And that's where I really like peeled it out and like really figured out more or less my mindset, my having less limited beliefs, more dynamic beliefs, more dangerous beliefs, if you will.
Dangerous.
Yeah. But the thing is like, okay, why do we have those limiting beliefs? And I think it's a lot of the time based on what I perceive as being just. Because I think when it comes to people trying to wrap their mind around like, oh, you work for a year and then you make like 50 grand for the rest of your life without having to do like hardly any work. It's like, some people might think like the only way they can wrap their mind around you doing that is if you're ripping people off.
Like that's right where their mind goes.
Yeah.
It's like you are not a just person because these are the methods you're using.
It's because it seems like almost too good to be true that there has to be something like sleazy about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, what they may not understand is how hard you have to work for that, like 1 year or 2 years to get that off the ground.
Yeah, because this is, I mean, I'm not going to go super deep into this, but this is a leverage game.
Yeah.
Being an entrepreneur and actually having a business is all about leverage.
Yeah.
Like the reason I even have employees I hire is so that I don't have to do the tasks that are low leverage opportunities. Like, doing basic customer kind of servicing calls. Like I want to spend my time planning in the next stages of my company.
It's worth your money to pay someone to do certain tasks
to get that time back.
To get that time back that you would have to. So then your time can be spent on the higher leveraging things that can make you more money.
Like doing sales calls or prospecting or training sales teams or, meeting with business, whatever it is.
Making higher level deals with people instead of like trying to just like sell a couple, like instead of try to make individual deals, try to find someone that you can partner with that will give you hundreds or thousands of deals.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to bring that up because that's the kind of the basic concept of leverage, and you can leverage a few different things. But one of them's time, one of them's money, and one of them's skills.
Yeah.
So another time for all that, but kind of getting back into what is justice, and people's like limiting beliefs there. It's fascinating to me because people can't even fathom the fact that I would take the kind of risk that I would for business. And like you're saying, like working this hard, like, I'm going to spend my free time outside of my 9-to-5 job that I currently work right now. And I do. And I'm going to get together with people and I'm going to explicitly ask them about business and say, do you want to start a business? Yeah. I'm going to get together with potential customers and say, hey, these are health products that I think could benefit your life. Like, let's talk about that. And let me present it, a hook story and an offer on what, and let me sell this person because I believe in the product so much, because I believe in my goals in my business. And I believe this will help them.
Yeah.
All of those things. And this is what the people these are what my friends on the phone didn't understand. They didn't understand those deeper motivations and they didn't personally align with them themselves, because they had misunderstandings there. They couldn't connect the importance of making a sale even. They probably don't even really know what sales are.
Yeah. It is really interesting, like, because I've gotten just into the sales game in the past year, like how much more I understand about what sales is. Because I think at the beginning of sales, like you think like, oh, I need to be able to sell, like just convince anybody of anything. But that's not really the case. It's just like I'm not gonna be able to sell steak to a Hindu vegetarian,
Right.
like it's that's not practical. It's like more selling steak to a steakhouse.
Right. It's like you just need to actually have a little bit of logic in the way that you sell and who you sell to.
Yeah. So and like learning those different aspects and being like, hey, actually, I'm not just trying to like make money off of you and rip you off. I'm trying to like actually give you something that solves problems and pain points that you have in your life that you will be more than willing to give me the money that it costs to get.
Yeah.
Um,
Like it's a win. Like you don't understand
it's a win-win.
that it needs to be a win-win. If it's not a win-win, the sale will not go through.
Yeah. Some people believe in a zero-sum game though, where if someone is winning, the other person has to be losing.
Let's go into that.
I think
Tell me about that.
It's a financial fallacy. Because they just think like it really stems from a scarcity mindset of thinking there's only so much in the world. And we've gotten to this in previous podcasts where it's like, hey, like even with internet, like the internet companies are the most valuable companies in the world. And then like in the 90s, most of them didn't exist. So it's like over 30 years, like they've created trillions of dollars of stuff that wasn't really a value that wasn't there before. And some people could argue like, oh, but they're taking away from this thing. It's like, well, that thing can still exist. So,
right.
It's creating more value there. But like, again, from that scarcity mindset of like, oh, there's only so much. So if I have a big stockpile of money, that means someone else has less money. It's like, no.
Like this is like the whole ocean, the buckets of ocean.
Yeah. But also if you take like two men that have fields that they're like farmers, but one knows how to grow the crop way better. So he like, say he grows twice as much corn as the other guy. They both have the same size of field. It's just one is like doing the things necessary to like make that corn grow better. He is taking the same amount of stuff, but like bringing more value out of it. Where the other guy might be thinking, you can only get so much corn out of like this size of land. You can only get this much corn out of. And then his neighbor who's getting more corn out of that is like, well, is that man stealing my corn?
Like that's how that mindset works, right?
Because he's going off the law that he thinks you can only get so much, like a certain amount of corn out of a certain amount of field. Whereas this guy who figures out maybe how to grow corn better, and make it produce more by, using certain fertilizers or irrigating the corn properly or something. I don't really know all the different farming stuff. And produce more, then the other guy's going to be like, well, what?
Right. So, and people get in this mode of thinking where, I this is something that connects with a lot of people I talk to on this topic. And I'll basically say like, hey, like Bill Gates has the same 24 hours a day that you do.
Yeah.
And initially they're like, another Instagram or another tweet, like, but I'm like, no, seriously, like they've just spent their mental energy on they've asked themselves this question in life. How can I use high leverage activities to accomplish more in my life?
Yeah. It's
to
literally
make more money.
Yeah.
And the other people just do what everybody else in the world does, what society tells them to do. And they just, I have to do what the average person will do.
To like fit in or like be part of the society or be.
The fact that you could have a high IQ or spend your time thinking on and being strategic and just like being a better thinker and having better solutions and then putting the fuck out and putting the work in like that other farmer did.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you're going to have a successful farm and people will look around and be like, there's no way you did that right.
Yeah.
But the fact is you just spent your effort and your energy to be better and to work harder and to think smarter.
Yeah. And it's just math too.
And it's the same 24 hours.
Yeah,
you just are spending your 24 hours better.
Yeah. And it's the thing of like, hey, like, I have this one, like, you could have like 3x plus 1 equals whatever, an outcome. And it's like, well, everyone might have that same equation, but they can change what x equals. So instead of like that x just being like 1, like I'm working an hourly job, some people are like, oh, actually, let me make that 3 or something. And then they're going to increase, like, it's just
multiplier essentially.
Yeah. People who become rich figure out how to multiply instead of, they're just doing multiplication instead of addition. Whereas people who are more middle class or something are just trying to think like, oh, how do I save more money? When you're thinking about saving more money, you're doing addition. When you think about like, how can I multiply my money? How can I take the money that I have, put it into something,
put it to work,
and then have it multiply instead of just adding, then I'll go up faster. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to risk multiplying because the thing is, it's like, okay, so if you take a certain number and you multiply it by something, I just hit my stand super hard.
Yeah, you're good.
If you take a number and another number and it's like, and you decide whether you're adding or multiplying, but you don't know what one of the numbers are, you got to take on risk because if you're timesing it by 1, you're just going to like, so if you times 2 by 1, you're just going to end up with 2 again. But if you add 2 plus 2, you're going to end up with 4. So it's like, oh, well, that ends up with double. But the thing is, it's like, you're taking on the risk of not knowing that other number. But if that number happens to be like 3 or 4, then you're going to end up with way more.
Right. So the concept here is the ability to multiply and I love that. And
it involves taking in risk, but
yeah. And that's something that we were chatting about before the episode, Adam. You kind of gave the example of going down to Houston to knock.
Yeah.
And kind of people's like what they'll ask you about the blitz.
Yeah.
And the questions they'll ask you.
They'll be like, okay, so how was your blitz week in Houston selling? And then I was like, oh yeah, it was good. I went down there and worked. It's like, oh, so they like covered your food, right? And they're like, no. It's like, oh, did they cover your gas driving down there? No. It's like, did they cover your flight? Did you fly? No. Did they cover your housing? Well, yeah, they actually did cover my housing, which is pretty nice. But some people just like can't fathom like, wait, it's a company and you're driving all the way down from Minnesota to Texas. It's like 20 hours of driving. So your total driving time is 40 hours, which is a work week. I don't know if that's exactly it. It might be a little bit less than that, but it's a very long drive.
Yeah.
And they're not even paying for your gas or your food. Like they're not taking care of you. Like that's not just, that's unjust. But at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, that might seem unjust to you, but like you're just having that like limited like mindset belief because what they're really teaching me to do is kind of like they're teaching me to fish rather than giving me a fish.
Come on.
Because they're giving me an opportunity to know what it's like to be a business owner without actually having to like go into a ton of debt to like develop a product or to develop a thing. It's just, hey, you do the things that like a business owner like kind of does, but you don't have to take on as much risk. But at the same time, like if you own a business, you have to take on all of the expenses and you only make money if you actually sell a product or service properly. That's the only way you make money. And the selling of the product or service that you do has to be greater than the amount of money that you're spending. That's how you make a successful business. It's just business 101.
Very basic math, actually.
Very basic math.
Overcomplicate this.
Yeah. We don't need to overcomplicate this. But at the same time, them not covering some of those things makes it so it's like, oh, well, I have to risk this to go do this. And like money is not guaranteed because it's fully commission. But
that's what people jumbles them, right?
Yeah, it's like, so you went down to Texas, drove like a total of 40 hours, didn't have your gas paid for, didn't have your food paid for. You didn't perform super well, so you made...
They're not even paying you hourly.
Yeah, they're not even paying you hourly, so you went down for a week and worked your butt off and made no money. And it's like, yeah, and people cannot fathom why I would do that. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but people go to college and go $100,000 in debt and then don't use that degree. So like, it's like, part of me is like, I'm actually probably doing something smarter than a person in college is doing. Like,
oh yeah,
I could literally just make the excuse. Like, that's almost how I could feel like I could wrap it around someone's head. It's like, oh yeah, it's just my college. Like, I go down to Houston to study for a week. Right. And then people will be like, oh, because it's like
all about how you like pre-frame this conversation for them.
I'm going to Houston to learn the skill of sales and business management and business. And
you just tell people it's an internship and they'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Like if I just tell them it's like, yeah, it's an internship, and be like, oh, okay. But like, I guess I frame it as like, it's my work. I'm working, and I want it to frame it that way because it's like, it is my work.
Yeah.
I could almost frame it'd be cooler if I could like frame it. It's not quite framed in my mind, but I could frame it as like, I need to go down to Houston to run my business.
Oh, dude, come on.
And then people would be like, you have a business in Houston? And I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Because right now I am my business. So wherever I am, there too is my business.
Dude, I feel like that's like gospel right there, man.
Yeah. I mean, I phrased it in a way where it sounds like that. Yeah.
It sounds like, yeah, yeah, I just want to say here, like, so the story I'm telling, right, and the phone calls I'm on, and the smoke screens I'm getting, right, I'm taking you guys on a journey, and we're visualizing where people are at. And I think what's super cool about, Adam, what we just talked about here, is this is some of our journey of kind of breaking out of these limiting beliefs. And we've covered some of this stuff about mindset in other episodes. Go back and take a listen if you're interested. And we're going to encounter people that aren't interested in a product. They aren't interested in a business opportunity. And at the end of the day, people just won't be open. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
You can't reach everybody.
Exactly. And that's part of the mindset that Adam and I have learned is we add it to the chip on our shoulder and we move on. Mm-hmm. There's another person in this world. There's billions of people in this world. Mm-hmm. Look it up on Google if you want the number. And
there's more people in this world than we'll ever talk to.
Yes. And so move on and find another person who's there are people, I promise you, who are hungry for an opportunity like I pitched my friend. And they're just waiting for me to come and find them. And it will literally change the course of their life forever.
Forever.
And I want to pause on that because it is worth enduring people getting emotional around you. It is worth their limiting beliefs start not just oozing, but like aggressively attacking you and attacking the foundations of what you hold to be true and good. And you have to be willing to calmly sift through it with them, because if they could see a little bit more like you do, their life could be changed.
Yeah.
They could have an opportunity to help people and make money and add value to people's lives in ways they can't even imagine right now. And that's the point. They can't even imagine it. I have to help them to even be able to crack into that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because they might not get it right now, but they can have a mind shift, a mindset change, where in the future they might understand it more. So it's like, by having these conversations, maybe they don't get it right now, but they might in the future. And especially if these people are like closer to you, like friends or family, Like, obviously, if that's a really important relationship,
Right.
like having a conversation about business isn't going to like break the thing. And maybe in the future, in a year, maybe 2 years, who knows? They can have that mindset change. Just like me and John and I,
Yes.
to use proper grammar, I believe.
Yeah.
We had to have that mindset change, and we've talked about what that mindset change looked like. We had to go through that process of a mindset change. So then we have to be able to trust that, okay, there's other people that like, they won't necessarily get it immediately, but later on they might think about it more and have a more of a mindset change and stop limiting their beliefs.
Absolutely. And I love that, man. And just to kind of wrap it up here, I want to say that people are all going to have their beliefs at the end of the day.
Yes.
They're going to have the perspectives of life. They're going to view world through a lens specific to them. And we have to be respectful of that.
Mm-hmm.
We also like acknowledging that also helps us be a little bit detached, because I used to really believe, Adam, that when I told somebody about what I was passionate about, and I explained to them my worldviews and how much that I cared about them, and people would disagree, I was so bent about the opinions of others shaped everything I was. I lived my whole life based on how others viewed me and their opinions of me. But now I don't give a fuck. And I have to not give a fuck. Why do I say it like that? Because it's a term that one of the dudes that Adam works with, he opened it up to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't give a fuck. And you have to say that to yourself. Anyway,
mm-hmm.
That's a whole tangent. But I have to be detached of what I'm saying, because at the end of the day, they might not agree. And that can't sway me from what I do believe. I have to expect it, honestly, because it's bound to happen. But I have to be willing to leave that person with the choice that they've made.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure that as a salesman, as an ethical salesperson and business owner, that if I didn't articulate it in the way that could make the most sense to and connect with them and their dreams and goals and visions and serve them and add value to them, if I didn't walk away them understanding that, then I failed. Yeah. But if I did articulate that and they just didn't have the ability to fathom and to receive what I had to say, then in the terms of this is exactly how we approach it with sharing our faith and our Christian faith. And it says in the Bible, we dust our sandals off of the door and leave that spirit with them. And we leave and we move on. And it doesn't carry with us. It doesn't weigh us down. And I think I'm saddened personally. I want to end on this note, that my friends responded this way, because obviously I care a lot about them. And I made sure that I told them that. I said, look, you may have had people that have sat down with you before and presented the same exact company and the same exact business opportunity. I'm sorry if it didn't go well. I'm sorry if they were sleazy about it. But knowing you as I do, as my friend, I would be a bad friend. I'd be a bad brother. I'd be a bad son if I didn't tell you about this opportunity that could change your life. And I just want you to know, as I literally told them this, I just want you to know that is all I care about. And that's why I'm even sharing this to you, even if it's kind of hard to hear. And I left it on that note. And they actually kind of responded positively to that.
Yeah.
But that's all I can do is to drop that seed. And if they are going to hold to their limiting beliefs and their worldviews and perspectives, I have to say, okay, I have to respect that and I have to move on.
Yeah. And I think the key there to be able to do that is hope. Because if you have hope, like, you know that their mindset will be changed eventually to what it best can be. And maybe your mindset's not in the right spot. Maybe you still have limiting beliefs.
Oh, yeah.
But you can have that hope that you can grow, and you can have hope that they grow. Because, like, as much as we want to have, like, a not giving a fuck attitude, those, like, limiting beliefs that we all have them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, if we're going to be having these conversations, it means we care. We give at least a little fuck, which is really weird to say, but
I know exactly what you mean.
But, like, we care a little bit, but at the same time we have to be detached. And I think what helps us care a little bit but also be detached is the key of hope.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, guys, we really encourage you to just take the steps. I hope this inspires you. I hope our stories of my actual story from yesterday and some of our stories from our past, Ab and I hope this inspires you to embrace the journey of what limiting beliefs don't serve you. What viewpoints do you have that maybe actually are unlogical and not true? It does take reflection. You will bump into people. You will butt elbows. And maybe if you're open, maybe they're right. And I think that can serve you really well. And the question that I would use to navigate this that I've been using is, does this belief, perspective, thought, does it serve me? Yes or no? And if it doesn't, we need to be willing and humble enough to shed them. We might not have an answer of what better serves us, but that will serve you really well if you're willing to lean into the journey there. And so thanks for joining us, guys. And just want to say we drop episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So subscribe so you never miss out. And if you find this helpful, we just ask you to share it with one friend who needs to hear this today. We just really want to help men become more dangerous like Adam and I are trying to do. And on that note, you've been listening to the Dangerous Man Podcast. Join us next time. Until then, stay dangerous.